Okay, so we're moving on swiftly. Hope everybody's kind of holding up. And we're going to now move over to session 12, which is getting over 305,000 people mobilised to take action on 2 campaigns. She is a stalwart. She is, a massive connector and engager, Alys King-Cole. And she's with, and we're also going to be hearing from Katie Turner. But we're going to hear from Alys first, and Alys is going to be sharing with us the You Can Cope campaign and her pledge about positive well-being. So a massive welcome to you, Alys. It's great to have you on the call. And so it's over to you.
Jackie, and just we can't see that Alys is connected yet on the audio.
Okay.
So Alys, can you just say hello if you are connected on the audio?
Do you want?
Okay, maybe if
you want to start with Katie?
Yeah, if we could start with Katie. And Katie, are you okay with that? We thought you connected through audio, so you should be unmuted now. Katie. Yeah.
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to unmute now.
Okay, so Katie, you're going to go first, and you've got 10 minutes.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Is my presentation up as well?
I think we're just going to fast forward. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much for having me here today for NHS Change Day. So basically, we run a very small campaign. We're just a group of what we call frontline nurses, so junior nurses and healthcare assistants that got together to talk about safe staffing and about how that could change patient care and also staff well-being. So our campaign is called 4 to 1, and it's about trying to get mandatory minimum staffing ratios for patient to nurse ratios in the NHS. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So we started the campaign because we basically got together because we were worried about staffing levels in our own hospitals and what we'd heard from other reports as well. So we got together around the time that the scientific report on mid-staff was coming out. And we wanted to do something that would be a positive campaign and hopefully would impact people across England, patients and staff members, to be able to give better patient care. And we decided that staffing was a major issue. And with the COAG report as well as the BOAC report, staffing was one of the main aspects that came up. That was something that could be changed and should be changed. But we've kind of seen drips and drabs of things that have been happening now since, but it's taken a long time. So basically this is from the nursing perspective and hopefully eventually from the public perspective about what we want for staffing in the NHS. So yeah, if I can have the next slide, please. So why did we come to NHS Change Day? Mainly because it's a really positive ideal. It's about what we can do as nurses, it's what we can do as staff, and what we want as well for a change in the NHS. So it's something positive that we can do. Okay, it's very different from the kind of pledges that we've been hearing because they've been very specific to specific places. This is more a kind of general campaign to make staffing better for everyone. So it's different in that way, but there's no reason why it can't be something that anyone can do in their own workplace. So we've kind of joined the pledge because we think that safe staffing will make better patient experience. More nurses mean less stress and burnout as well. And then if legislation was achieved, then it would make a significant difference to healthcare in the NHS across England, and it would kind of equalise the standards as well across England. Because at the moment, each trust can choose its own staffing levels. and that's going to be difficult to change as well. So yeah, it's about positive change in a big scale, I would say, but you can do little things in your workplace, which we'll come to in a minute. So next slide, please. So we've gone and looked at quite a lot of research around this. There isn't actually a great deal with British research. We've seen a lot through the RCN, and we've seen a lot through Rafti, who's on the Safer Staffing Alliance and doing the research for that. And there's lots of common sense research to say that when there's better staffing levels, there's less effect on patient care. So patients are getting better care, safer care, there's less mortality rates, and there's less complaints as well, less falls. So it just makes for a safer working environment, not only for patients, but for staff as well. So less sickness, less burnout. It's a good way to keep your staff, if they're happy as well in their working environment, and they'll come to work every day, and you won't have sickness levels for stress that we're seeing at the moment. We also have amazing amount of nursing vacancies, and that may be due to the conditions that people are expected to work in. If they're coming to a shift where they feel like they can't give that quality patient care and going home feeling that guilt, feeling that burnout at the end of the day, then they're less likely to join up to a ward where it's like that at the moment. But if we can change conditions to be better, then hopefully we can recruit more nurses and make for a better team environment as well. And then I guess the thing is that tools have already been produced for safe staffing. We've seen them produced across the country before, and obviously we've got the NICE guidelines coming out gradually now. But the worry and concern is that these tools have been produced before and they haven't seen much change. There's been a little bit of change in some places where they've been able to afford the change, but it hasn't been as widespread as it needs to be. So the point of legislation would mean that everyone has to staff to a particular level. Okay, next slide, please. So we've kind of gone over this a little bit. So why is understaffing important? So less can be work undone. It could lead to poor care, so a deterioration in acutely ill patients that's not detected. Later interventions means less successful and high mortality rates, which is seen in the research. Patient mortality as well is higher when there were more patients to nurse ratios. So that's mainly the research that's come out. And we've seen massive improvements across the world where ratios have been implemented. So we've been working together with some Californian nurses where ratios have been in place. And then in Australia as well, we've had people over to talk about how they run ratios in certain states in Australia and how that's really improved the working environment. And there's loads of research to show that actually those mortality rates drop significantly when they have safer staffing ratios. Next slide, please. So we've got a video of our lovely Californian nurses and how it's impacted them. I'm not sure, have we got time to show it?
Yeah, maybe we can show it towards the end, because it's going to just take us a couple of minutes to get it up on YouTube. So
yeah, sure.
Maybe we can just continue and we'll try to get it ready.
Yeah, it might be a nice way to end the presentation anyway. So next slide, please. So what have we done already as a very small campaign of just a couple of nurses? We've spread ourselves a little bit across the country. We've done that mainly through using unions. So we've had backing now from Unite. We've got backing from some branches of Unison and RCN, who've been brilliant. And we've been to a couple of meetings to talk at branch meetings about the campaign. So we're trying to spread ourselves around, trying to get groundwork support for the campaign. We've produced a website, leaflets giving information, also a fact file as well with all the evidence that backs up what we're trying to implement. We've also unfortunately had to produce whistleblowing pamphlets due to the nature of people coming forward to us and telling us the situations where they have experienced unsafe staffing, and when they've tried to report it or do something about it, they've been bullied. So we've produced a whistleblowing pamphlet trying to give guidance about what people can do when that situation happens. We've had an e-petition with 38 degrees, where we've had 21,000 people, over 21,000 people now sign up. And that's been a combination of NHS staff and the public as well, in support for having mandatory minimum staffing levels in the NHS. We've also tried to start some of our own research. So we have tried to get some of the figures that are coming out from wards now, where they're producing about what their staffing levels are right now, which has been useful. We're also talking to student nurses about their experiences and what they've witnessed on the ward and how it's kind of impacted on their learning, which will be a really interesting article once that comes out, and hopefully will help the NMC sit up and say, actually, this is impacting our new nurses that are coming into the NHS. So it's an important issue. So we'll have a follow-up article as well with mentors and how it affects how they can support nurses, student nurses in that way. And we're also producing some research onto overtime as well. So how much people are doing overtime, whether that's in bank work as well, staying late after shift, or as well, if you're missing breaks on shift, how that's impacting your day-to-day nursing life, and how it's impacting patients as well, obviously. And then we do a fun thing as well. We try and make it a little bit more social. So every month in our local area in South London, we have a social, so we show films or have talks about current health issues, and it's just a good environment for people to get together and talk about any problems that are on their ward, whether it's due to safe staffing or any other issues, and try and support each other. So that's been a nice extra curricular type of thing that we've been able to do. Next slide, please. So that's just an array of the posters that we've done for our social and the types of films that we've shown, including kind of the making of the NHS and what it was all about in the first place, like the Mary Seacole campaign, some MSF films, and a lot about kind of international healthcare and what's happening around the world as well at the moment. Next slide, please. So what are we going to do next? So obviously we need to gain more and more support for this. We are holding meetings more in medium branches in some hospitals as well, to kind of build a campaign at a grassroots level. We will be contacting public groups and patient groups as well to see what they feel about the issue. And then we're in the process of lobbying the Department of Health to talk about their response to staffing levels, which has been very, very slow at this stage and very delayed. It's starting to happen, but we just want to see what they're going to do about the numbers that are produced by the wards. We need to do more research as well, particularly research in the UK, because there's very little at the moment. So we're going to build on the research. And then also we've been supporting some political campaigns for staffing. So in Wales currently at the moment, the Liberal Democrats are putting through a bill in government for mandatory minimum staffing levels for nurses in the NHS. So exactly what we're campaigning for, which is brilliant news. And we've been able to be part of their consulting for that bill to give some advice on what our opinions are and what safe staffing should be from the nursing perspective. So that's been a brilliant opportunity. and we're hoping that perhaps we can spread that to some English campaigns, political campaigns in the future, and particularly coming up to election time. Next slide, please. So this is the situation that we see quite often now. So in places that are understaffed, nurses are overworked, burnt out, and environments can be unsafe. And this is what we hope if safe staffing will come along as well. The next slide, please.
Okay, so you've just got what, just 1 more minute?
Okay, I'll try and wrap up. So next slide, please. So what do we want people to do in their workplace? So you can raise issues about understaffing with colleagues. You should also fill out incident reports as well. If you feel that the situation has led you to be unsafe due to unsafe staffing, please start reporting it in the internal systems as well. Build links and supports with other nurses. If you want to get in contact with us and find out how you can start up your own campaign group about safe staffing, you can get in touch. And get nurses as well to publish staffing levels and participate in some of the research that we're doing. And realise that you can turn around the whole idea of what we call pin fear, where people are scared that actually the situation means that they're going to lose their pin, but actually it's a situation that you've been put in. It's the system that's been created that's made us unsafe. So we can turn that around and try and work with managers together to say this is something that we want to make our environment safe for everyone in the future. And so we don't have to break our code of conduct by being unsafe. Next slide, please. Lovely. So that's our website and our email. So if people want to get in touch, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Katie. That was great. Before I go over to Alys, can I just check how long your video is?
It's about 2 minutes long.
Okay.
So it's okay if we don't show it, but it's on our website.
If we can do that at the end if we can do that at the end, then we will definitely.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay, thank you so much, Katie. And that is such an important subject that you were talking about. It kind of takes me back to, you know, when I was working on the wards and as a kind of an operations, lead. So really important stuff there. And as somebody said on the chat, some really important data there. So I hope we do get some questions at the end of this. But I would like to now introduce to you Alys, Alys Colpin, who's going to be sharing her pledge and what she's done around developing well-being and emotional resilience. So a very big welcome to you, Alys.
Thank you.
You've got 10 minutes, so it's over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here today, but actually it's not just me, I'm representing a lot of people. And essentially this pledge is about developing our emotional well-being and our resilience, because actually people with a good well-being and good resilience actually have fewer health problems, not just in terms of their emotional health, but actually their physical health as well. And I think it's actually worth mentioning that people who work in a high pressure environment, for example, the NHS, actually stress-related illnesses are one of the commonest reasons to have sickness absence. And so it's a really vital pledge in terms for us to be able to deliver compassionate care for our patients. But also it's a really democratic pledge because it puts everybody at the same level. And, you know, it's been absolutely lovely to be able to invite people from all walks of life, from all ages. We've had people joining us, not just from around the UK, but actually beyond the UK. And it's lovely that we've been able to do that. And the key thing about this pledge is raising awareness, because people don't strategically think about ways of increasing their well-being. People sometimes just think they either have it or they don't. So that was the main reason, but obviously to look at some tangible changes. If I can have the next slide, please. Thank you. And the whole point of this pledge is to build everybody's emotional resilience. And if we look at this diagram, it illustrates the population as a whole. Studies have previously suggested that perhaps as many as 1 in 4 people have problems, mental health problems at some point in their life, but actually new research has suggested it's closer to 1 in 3. Other research has demonstrated that about 1 in 10 people have experienced suicidal thoughts in their life, but again, more recent research shows it's probably far more than that. And what we're trying to do is raise awareness across every sector of society, because we know actually that the majority of people who die by suicide have not been in touch with specialist mental health services. And however, these people don't live in a vacuum. They have friends, families, communities, but actually they can build their own resilience. Next slide, please. And as well as being an NHS consultant with the Betsy Cadwallader University Health Board in North Wales, I'm also Clinical Director of Connecting with People. And the goal of Connecting with People is to increase awareness, to reduce stigma, to promote compassion, and improve the understanding between those people experiencing thoughts of suicide and those people trying to help them, but actually to increase everybody to improve their well-being and resilience. And we've got some main strategies around this. One is our bite-sized training. The next strategy is actually embedding a consistent assessment framework, because if we're not talking the same language, then how can we talk about the situation or help people move forwards? But the key thing about what we do is to help people help themselves. And a key element of the self-help resources we developed on behalf of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, but actually raising awareness that people can learn to help themselves. And I think particularly in the NHS, we don't always look after ourselves. We're so busy looking after other people that sometimes we're almost forgotten in the way we look after ourselves. And I give the example of using a seatbelt. When I get in the car and go on a car journey, I genuinely don't think I'm going to have a head-on collision, but I always put on my seatbelt. And actually this may be a good way to view life. We hope that none of us will have an emotional crisis or difficulty or an overwhelmingly stressful life event. But actually, if that happens, and if we've got a pre-made plan of how we'll cope, if we're already investing in building up our well-being and resilience, then we'll cope far better. And this is the whole point of the pledge. It's to get people to act early. We recognise that changes do need to be made, perhaps in a way so we can be more compassionate towards each other. I'm not talking about the NHS now, I'm talking about society as a whole. But actually, while we're waiting for those changes to take place, there's still things we can do for ourselves. And that can also increase our sense of self-efficacy. Next slide, please. So the whole plan is, I don't know if you're able to get the next slide or if there's a technical difficulty. Lovely, thank you very much. So the whole thing about this pledge is that it's been wonderful to work with NHS Change Day, and it's been wonderful to use it as a platform to reach more people and to really join in the exciting buzz of Change Day. And so we've used the theories of social movements, but also the theory of planned intent. Because if you commit to doing something, and if you commit in writing to doing something, you're far more likely to do it. And so what this pledge is so democratic, and it really helps reduce stigma, because we're saying that anybody can join this pledge if you have a mental illness, if you have difficulty, if you have adversity, whatever your age. And people have been invited to commit to doing 3 things. You'll see my pledge on the screen because wherever possible I try to be authentic, and actually I don't think I should ask someone to do something if I'm not willing to do it myself. So you see I've chosen 3 really simple things which may appear to actually be almost too simple, but don't underestimate the power of doing something small regularly and perhaps even every day. So for example, the idea is to have family time with no gadgets. And I must say, I don't know if everybody was as enthusiastic as I was when this was first mooted, but actually it's become part of the culture now, and it's wonderful. And again, going out for a picnic every week, I must say it's much more pleasant now the weather's improved. The other thing is exercise. Sometimes people think they're too busy to exercise, but actually I think if we considered the alternative of perhaps becoming ill, we realise that nobody is too busy for 15 minutes exercise a day. And the other thing is connecting more with family, friends, but actually with yourself. So that's why the 2 things I've chose were connecting with family, friends, but also undertaking some mindfulness practice. And as I said, I'm just one of all the other people that supported this pledge, and I've been hearing some fabulous things that people are doing. So, for example, the Royal College of Psychiatrists have really taken this pledge to their hearts, and we're actively also promoting helping other people with this pledge. In my own health board, for example, my own team, the liaison team where I work, we now include the patient leaflets of how people can improve their resilience in our every single assessment pack. So every patient we see, we now explain to them ways they can improve their well-being and resilience. Apparently there's even a hairdresser in North Wales, Enigma Hairdressing in Llandudno, and it's absolutely wonderful because they are supporting the pledge, and they've even put their resources amongst their beauty products. And this is what we're saying, it's so democratic that anybody can join in. Next slide, please. And you can see from the next slide, we've got a picture of each of the 3 resources. The first, the one in purple, You Can Cope, has been designed to actually give people very useful tips and strategies of how they can build their resilience. And actually it's designed to be suitable for children and young people, but to be honest, it's just as practical for adults. And I often say to adults, you know, when we buy a new television, do we spend hours reading the in-depth instructions, or do we look at the quick guide? And I think most of us look at the easy read. The next leaflet, The Feeling Overwhelmed and Staying Safe, is designed for people who are already feeling a little stressed, who perhaps are noticing that things are getting on top of them, or maybe they're working too hard, or some distressing life events. And these are really simple strategies that people can use to actually help themselves. And it gives very practical advice on how to make a safety plan, and it gives an overview of the fantastic national organisations that provide support and how to contact them. And then the next resource, Feeling on the Edge and Helping You Through It, is for people who are very distressed, or perhaps people who have already self-harmed. And these resources are available in leaflet format via the Royal College of Psychiatrists, but they're also available online, and you can see the Connecting with People website address. And what I've actually found out is that people are now, when they perhaps see a patient in distress, or if they know family and friends, when they're there with the person, they actually type in the website address so that somebody has got it on their smartphone, got it on their laptop, so that they have it then when they need it. And I think the whole thing about this pledge is encouraging people to do things for themselves and actually to strategically improve their resilience, because we never know what life will throw at us, but, you know, let's make sure we're in the best possible position, both emotionally and physically, to be able to deal with that when anything arrives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you could put my camera back on, please, Paul, that would be great. Thank you, Alys, again, for another inspirational presentation. So I'd just like to open it out to anybody who wants to ask a question. My little scroll button has gone missing in my chat, so I'm unable to scroll to see whether there are any questions. But Kathy, are there any questions in the chat box? Or does anybody want to raise their hand to just ask a question of either of Alys or Katie? Kathy, are you raising your hand there? Just to...
Yes, we've got not specific questions, we've got lots of comments, lots of enthusiasm. People are getting all their colleagues, they're leaving their laptops running with this WebEx, their colleagues are walking past, their colleagues are asking them questions. It's all about sharing today. People are increasing their multitasking skills as well, and they want to do it every day.
Good. And have we got any questions for Alys or Katie? Have we got any questions for Alys or Katie? No? Well, I've got a question for you both. I think what really struck me about both your presentations were, I think these were the sort of, you know, the big campaigns that came out for Change Day. And clearly, you know, they are campaigns in their own right. So I wanted to kind of ask a bit about how you built those campaigns outside of Change Day, and how Change Day has helped do that. But before that, I just wondered whether you both could give just a small example of how these campaigns have actually directly helped patients. And I know you may have done a bit of that through your presentation, but just give us a couple of, or one sort of just a small example of how they've actually helped patients. Katie, could I ask you to go first? Alys, are you?
I'm here.
Are you there? Do you want to go?
Would you like the tangible?
Oh, go on then, Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, whoever is available. Sorry, it's difficult to distinguish voices.
It's Alys here.
Yeah, Alys, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think in terms of tangible examples for patients, in terms of the way that we built the campaign, we built it in a cost-neutral way, and so no investment other than a small amount of time was required from the people who joined the campaign. And I think that's the beauty of joining the NHS campaign, sorry, the NHS Change Day, in that it's got a fabulous camaraderie, it's got a feeling, though, that we're doing something positive together. But in terms of how it's benefited patients, it's meant that so many more people are aware of these practical and compassionate resources for patients in a way that I and my Connecting with People colleagues in the college would not have been able to engage so many different NHS organisations without collaborating with Change Day in this way. Yeah. And so it means that, I mean, for example, we've had nearly 40,000 hits on the page of our website where we host the resources. And that means that 40,000 extra people who needed to see these resources have been able to.
Mm. And have you seen that change, Alys, over the last 2 years?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, definitely. And I think the beauty is that because of working with NHS Change Day in this way, it's meant that I've been able to directly engage with the head of comms of many different NHS organisations, and they now know these resources exist when before they didn't. Several of them have actually, I know they've gone on and to order some of these resources for their own patients. If they were unable to have the financial situation to buy the resources, having said that, they're only about 40p each, they can use them for free from the website. And so that's been amazing, because new research has now come out showing that social media does have a significant role to play in suicide prevention. If you speak to someone who has been suicidal, or someone who's been distressed, or somebody who's maybe worried about a relative, most people do not know how to respond if somebody they care about is distressed. And it gives them such a sense of relief, knowing that there's these really sensible and practical resources that they can access and show the person in distress. And it means that we've been able to achieve that in a way we couldn't have otherwise across the UK, but actually beyond the UK. I think it's also given a real buzz, and it's been able to engage with people outside the NHS. Because, you know, like you, I feel strongly that NHS Change Day is not just about the NHS, it's about all of us. And it's been wonderful to engage with the Professional Cricketers Association. I mean, only just yesterday, Young Minds have joined. And that's wonderful, because, you know, we want to reach people early to help people when they're children and young people to start building their resilience. You know, it's never too early to build your well-being. And perhaps, and it meant that it was almost, there's a wonderful platform to engage with organisations that I wouldn't normally engage with. And of course, the more people know about these resources, the more lives will be saved.
Yeah. And I think, you know, Alys, you know, as I just kind of reflected back on Helen's white paper, on the white paper that Helen presented earlier, and it was all about how we make connections. And I remember the very first call that I had with you, which was just us speculating and saying, how can we help each other? And I just think it's fantastic to know that you continue to stay engaged for the last 2 years, and it's just absolutely heartwarming to know that actually it's had an impact on the campaign that you're part of. It's truly inspirational. Thank you. So Katie, there is a specific question for you in the chat, but I'd also like to know how you've kind of built your campaign as well. So the question in the chat was, great presentation. Have you done any work around staffing levels and falls incidents? So that's a specific question. So if you want to answer that one first, and then you can talk about how you built the campaign.
Sorry, could you just repeat that question? I didn't quite hear the end of it.
So have you done any work around staffing levels and falls incidents?
Falls incidents.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, we've been given some data through one of the trusts in London, and they basically shown that when there's been unsafe staffing levels, so there's been higher patient to nurse ratios, there have been more incidents in falls. So we've actually had concerns as well from occupational therapists and physiotherapists that have said that when there aren't enough nurses on shift, that it's more likely that people are going to have falls and accidents while they're on the wards, because they're more likely to try and do things themselves rather than ask a busy nurse to come and assist them, unfortunately. So yes, we have been working with one particular trust already with their data on falls research, and we hope to look at a few other hospitals around the country and just compare those, because it would be good to have a wider case study that we can produce with that. So yeah, we have been looking at that, because I think that's a big thing about health and safety that we can use as evidence to say that if we have better staffing levels, then hopefully we can reduce those incidents. So that's for that one. I think in terms of NHS Change Day and the pledges, we didn't really use it to the full capacity that we should have. I think it was at a very busy time for all of us when it came up, and I think it's something that we really will implement for the future and for next year, and try and raise the profile a little bit better and spread it around all our networks as well, and use it as a kind of mobility for people to get involved and for the public as well to become interested in what we're doing. So yeah, we'd like to build on that for next year. But it's been a really good campaign to be involved with. I think it's so important that we all work together to produce positive change, because there's been so much negative press about the NHS and about nurses. And I think we really need to do things that change that for the good, and show that we do really care about our working environments and that these are the things that we want to do to make it better for patients.
Well, that's fantastic. And Alys, do you have a last word? I don't know whether we've got time to watch the film. If I can just ask the technical team to get that ready if we've got time.
We do.
But, Alys, in the meantime, have you got the last word on this section?
Thank you. Well, again, I was so grateful for the opportunity to collaborate with NHS Change Day in this way, and I would just urge everybody to have a look at the web page and to join if they haven't. And it's great. I'm actually keynote speaker at a National Samaritans conference this weekend, and we'll be having a mass signing. I think there'll be about 120 of us. We've got certificates all lined up. So, and it's never too late to build your well-being, and it's never too late to join this pledge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Alys. What a positive note to end on. And I just really wish you all the best, both of you in your campaigns. And can we just give them a round of applause, a virtual round of applause, and to just say thank you. And I'm going to give you some laughter as well. It's all about building resilience. Thank you so much. Thank you, Katherine. Thank you, Alys.
Thank you.
Have we got time to? Okay, we haven't got time, unfortunately, to show the film. So just to say goodbye to both of you, and hope you're able to, stay on if you can. If not, it's been a pleasure having you both.